All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, happy to be talking to an individual who's got quite the fight coming up here for the One Light Heavyweight Championship. One on TNT IV is going down on April the 28th, and we have a high stakes bout going on between Aung La N Sang and Vitaly Big Dash, a high stakes trilogy bout, and I have Aung on the show for the first time. How's your day going so far there, man?
Good. Great training today. Had sparring this morning and then some technical training tonight and some boxing training tonight. So had a very productive day today.
Yeah, I imagine you're getting in great work over at, Sanford MMA there, and you talk about refining skills. I imagine that's, good to do under a guy like Henry Hooft, who seems like he's got a very keen eye for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep. Henry is as good as they get.
Yeah, you probably jealous of his talent.
Yeah, you mentioned
him and I vibe really well. So it's been great with working with Henry and Greg Jones and Tommy, and then our strength and conditioning coach Corey Peacock, and we got Nick Lenz, jumping into the coaching staff as well. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's a great addition there. Nick Lentz, a keen eye for the sport in his own right. But you were talking about certain sparring you were getting done. And I know in past efforts you've sparred with guys like, Rumble Johnson and individuals like that. Who specifically are you sparring with ahead of this fight here?
Well, we have quite a few middleweights right now. This week I spar with Brendan Allen. This morning I sparred lots of rounds with Brendan Allen. You have Phil Haas. We have Muhammad as well. Muhammad came from ACA, the welterweight champion there. We have Tuco, Gio, and then tall Steve. Steve Morrow, he was fighting in Bellator. He's a heavyweight. And Brendan Vera is here as well. So I got a very good group of guys for sparring. So
Yeah, some great names you just rattled off there, and that kind of in a way ties into a question that I had for you there, because you've been getting in work with Brandon Vera, and obviously you guys had that much talked about fight and everything where you kind of came out on top there, and Brandon Vera had said at one point that he'd like to offer you that heavyweight title shot, but you almost seem like that's not in your goal pattern. Like it seems like you more want to stick it out at middleweight and light heavyweight. Is that a fair characterization? Like, is it just an optimal weight class thing? Is it because you've been on kind of friendly terms with Brandon? Like, what informs that decision, I guess?
no, I don't really care for opponents. I don't care for I don't care who I fight. It's just I want to be the best version of myself. And I don't think the best version of myself is at heavyweight. It's more at light heavyweight or middleweight.
Is that informed by anything specific? Like, I only asked that because I'd seen a social media post when you fought Elaine Angalani where you described it as, oh, this is the moment jiu-jitsu saved my life and inspired me to move to Florida. Like, is it informed by past fights with heavyweight framed individuals at all?
Yeah, just training with heavyweights is just. I know I'm not a heavyweight. If I was like 4 or 5 inches taller, and I was a little bit heavier, it would be fine. But if I were to be the best version of myself, if you ask me what weight class would I fight at, it's either middleweight or light heavyweight. It's not heavyweight.
Yeah, it's just about your optimal weight class and stuff like that. And it seems like Sanford MMA does a good job at getting you aware of your body in that kind of regard, just like a deeper understanding of the biochemistry and everything like that.
100%. Yeah, we're trying to be the best professional that we can be. As much as I love fighting, we're trying to be the best athlete that we can be at the weight class as well. For me, it doesn't really make sense to go up to heavyweight. I'm only 6'1", on a good day. So, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've got a proven track record at, middleweight and also light heavyweight. So, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. But in talking about this, and talking about this trilogy bout here, I mean, bit of a rarity in the one championship circle. Like Eustaquio had one with Moraes there, the trilogy and everything, but just, tied one apiece, and this being the big rubber match. I'm kind of curious, like, do you think you guys are both going to have, like, that deep understanding of one another whereby it's like a chess match kind of dynamic, or do you think there's enough space between the fights whereby there's going to be that advanced development and there's not going to be that direct kind of recall as much?
Well, we'll know each other by the core, like we spent an hour together, 5 minutes, 10 rounds, plus that minute rest, another 10 minutes. So we spend with each other for an hour. You spend an hour with somebody, you get to know them pretty well.
Yeah.
But he's the reason why I moved down to Florida. He's the reason why I told myself, man, I need to get better. And so, thanks to him, I believe I'm a better athlete. I'm a better fighter because I made, the life decision, a big life decision by moving down here. And I'm sure he's gonna be, and I'm sure I changed his life, and so he's gonna wanna avenge his loss. But for me, this is for me. It's a very important fight because I want to put the nail in the coffin. I want to get that finish. I like finishing fights. I don't like decision fights.
Yeah, and I guess that would be, a cinematic closure point in a way, just with the backdrop of the previous two fights going the full distance there.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point in me moving down to Florida? What's the point in me doing all these life changes if I can't, if I can't improve the way I want to improve? I want to be better, and I want to make a point on this third fight.
Yeah, for sure. And you seem very hyper-focused ahead of just this one and getting back out to compete. Like, I think I'd seen an interview with Nick Atkin where you were talking about how you feel like a younger fighter lately. Like, there's like a renewed sense of that, I guess, like early on enthusiasm. Like, was there anything that informed that kind of reigniting of that sort of fire, like bringing you back to that feeling that brought you to the proverbial dance?
I think losing makes lights a fire up your butt, So for me, that last loss really hurt me, and it really, wanted me to be a better performer, better fighter, better everything. And it really, and I'm going to show it on April 28th.
Yeah, and obviously this one being like a light heavyweight centric kind of a fight, but your last one being a middleweight affair there. I'm kind of wondering, like, is it going to be going back to the pattern before of like taking certain fights at middleweight and then light heavyweight? Are you looking to stick it out in one division for a certain period of time? Like, not overlooking your opponent here because this is a huge fight, but just in the post-fight, in like the decision making and all that, like, would it be a sole division kind of deal or maybe concurrently going between the weight classes?
Well, my weight is actually in between the two weight classes.
That works out.
So I can usually, like if you see me training in the gym, I train with heavyweights a lot too. I would say I have as much difficult time with the heavyweights as I do with the welterweights, or I have as easy of a time with the heavyweights as I do with the welterweights. So it's for me, it's just changing my body a little bit, changing the diet a little bit. And just choosing, handpicking more of the heavier fighters or the lighter fighters when I change weight class.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the lightweight fighter or the welterweight fighters in the gym rather, and it seems like the welterweight champ in the promotion you're in has been calling you out a little bit, Kiamrian Abbasov there, and it seems like he's also kind of exchanging some barbs with De Ridder and stuff like that for maybe like a champ versus champ fight. Is that someone you can see yourself fighting eventually? Like maybe a fight with Abbasov is something that eventually will come to fruition?
Yeah, everybody that called me out while I was the middleweight and the light heavyweight champ, I'm calling them back out. I want all of them. I want every one of them. And I remember all of them too. So Abbasov, you're going to get it next.
Yeah, it seems like you almost like take umbrage with that in a way. Like there's a level of intensity, like when people called you out there. Like, does that stoke a certain fire in you? Like the fact that people were calling you out, now you finally have the opportunity to be like, hey, come on, come and get it.
Yeah, because they think I'm like. I mean, I guess they don't respect. I guess they don't respect you until you punch them in the face, you know. Or, I mean, it's easy to call somebody out. It's easy to say this and say that, but when it's time to fight, you know, it's time to fight. Let's see what they have to offer. You know, like I could care less, man. Like, but everybody that called me out, I want every one of them.
Yeah, I love hearing the intensity and stuff like that. I think it's going to result in a lot of really compelling matchups going forward. But I'd be remiss if I didn't briefly touch on things that are going on in your home country there, just with the coup that's going on in Myanmar and stuff like that. And it seems like you're really trying to use your platform to get people to understand what's going on outside of that, which must be frustrating because there's certain like domestic restrictions on the internet and certain things that I find to be pretty egregious. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit? I imagine that's a hugely, I guess, stressful thing, big weight on you ahead of this one.
For sure. You know, starting camp, it was really depressing and it really weighed on me. I had to talk to a sports psychologist to get it, you know, to be able to control that. Like the fighting that we do in the cage is nothing compared to what's going on in Myanmar. I wouldn't have this opportunity if I lived in Myanmar, you know. So as somebody living in America, I have to embrace that, and I have to be grateful for the opportunity that I get to compete and do what I love, you know, something that I'm passionate in, and it's also a way for me to kind of spotlight what's happening in Myanmar.
Do you think there will be a catharsis with that in the performance whereby you're not just getting out there for an individual athletic competition, but maybe also shining a broader spotlight on Myanmar and what's going on with your people?
Well, I'm hoping to do that, you know, and that goes back to working with a sports psychologist on that topic. You don't want it to hinder your performance. You want it to be more like a motivation for your performance, you know? Like, honestly, there are some mornings when I look at the news and the media of what's going on in Myanmar, and I get depressed and I can't train right. I go in and spar and I get hit with, you know, shots that I usually don't get hit with because my mind is not right, you know? And that's the reason why I'm working with a sports psychologist right now, so that I can get my mind right.
Yeah, no, that's a hugely beneficial aspect to the game. But I also just wanted to take a brief moment to thank you for even taking the time to speak to me during this. Like, I've been checking out some of the updates on what's happening over there, and it's hugely disheartening for me. So I can't imagine how you feel, man.
And a lot of the Western media is not going to cover Myanmar, you know, because if you Google it, Myanmar has the longest ongoing civil war. That is over 7 decades long, you know? It's a civil war that's ongoing for over 7 decades, you know? And no news covers that. No news media, no news outlet really. I mean, they do cover it, but not in an extent that they should be, you know? So for me, it's a chance, like, to be able to fight on TNT, it's a chance for me to spotlight Myanmar.
Yeah, well, that has a lot of domestic pull for sure. Like, and especially too because it's like in the programming kind of block. It's going right after AEW Dynamite there, which has been getting some good ratings. So I imagine the domestic viewership is going to be huge. So that would be great for the message, man.
Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully that pans out and stuff like that for sure. That would be a great thing to see and whatnot. But it seems like Myanmar, very key place for you in a lot of different ways. But also, like, when I'd seen you move to, I believe it was in Michigan there, Burien Springs, I believe. I might have botched the pronunciation, but the place where Muhammad Ali lived, and apparently you'd go up to the gates of his house and you'd kind of just be enamored by that. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit, because that's a really interesting anecdote, I think.
It is. Um, the legend, the myth, whatever you call him, Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time. When it comes down to it, he's just a regular man. He's just a regular man. I guess my university's neighbor. So whatever we make somebody seem like it, they're still a human being. They're still a man, and just as much as you respect Muhammad Ali and revere him, you should respect everybody the same.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great message. I was just more so going to tie that into the fact that it seems like a tradition-based thing. Like I think I'd seen a prior interview where you were saying that when you were a kid, pretty much like you and every household were watching Tyson versus Holyfield. So it seems like combat sports is really entrenched in the culture out there.
Yeah, it's big in Myanmar. Myanmar is they love combat sports. Like any country, any town, any university, they cheer for their team. And unfortunately for us, with what's going on in the country, our teams usually don't do so well. But we're the whole team, the whole country cheers for their athletes, and that's also a little bit why I need to perform well this upcoming bout.
Yeah, well, it seems like there's a pronounced level of fanfare around you. Like you have a great success rate out there, and some of the reactions I hear from the crowds are, pretty wild just in terms of the magnitude of sound coming out. Was it a little strange the last time out when you were fighting, just like the, I guess maybe eerie quiet of the whole thing, or was that not really the case so much? Maybe it felt more like a sparring session.
Not really, because just a few months ago, or like a month ago, I cornered a friend that fought in LFA, and there was like no crowd as well. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't anything like that. And also, there were 250. There were 250 people in the crowd, and even with the 250 people in the crowd, I can hear the Burmese fans in there waving the Burmese flag. So it wasn't that bad. It didn't really it wasn't the reason why I didn't perform well last fight.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just wondering if there was just like a difference more so. But it's still cool that even with that dynamic, you still feel that support of, the Myanmar people and everything like that, man.
Yeah.
But, in talking about, Myanmar and stuff like that, like I'm quite familiar with Lethwei. It's a sport that I enjoy there and just, has thousands of years of history entrenched in the country there. Is that something you'd like to do under the One Championship banner before all is said and done with your career? Like, is taking a Lethwei bout on the proverbial bucket list there for you?
It's not really on the bucket list, but if it happened, I would be down for it if there's enough interest in it. Because remember, my life work is not really in lead weight. It's in mixed martial arts,
Yeah.
So if it happens, I would be more than happy. But that being said, I do believe, how Muay Thai is big in MMA, boxing is big in MMA, wrestling is big in MMA. All these, martial arts are big in MMA, jiu-jitsu is big in MMA. There's no reason why leadweight shouldn't be big in MMA, Besides the headbutt,
You wouldn't want that to be integrated into the rule set?
I wouldn't mind. I got a big head.
Well, you bring up an interesting point. You were saying that it's not on your bucket list because it's not necessarily directly oriented to MMA. Like, do you have an MMA bucket list of things you would like to accomplish there?
Yeah. I mean, one of it is be the best version of myself. Understand the high level, understand how high level mixed martial artists, in each skill set work. Like I have a good understanding of the level of jiu-jitsu it takes to perform at a high level in MMA. And I kind of have an understanding for kickboxing, boxing, and starting to in the wrestling department, but I would like to get better, become a better, I guess become a better teacher as well when I'm done fighting. And so right now my goal is to just absorb and learn everything.
So do you have some level of aspiration to, like, say, be a coach at Sanford MMA when the competitive career is all said and done, kind of pay it forward like Henry Hooft sort of thing?
Yes. Well, initially I was going to open up a gym in Burma.
Yeah.
Next month. It was supposed to open earlier this year already, and it was supposed to be, the grand opening was supposed to be next month, But that's not going to happen because of the coup. But now, that plan's going to have to change somehow. And it really, I really believe that my calling was going back and giving back to, Myanmar. And that's, that's partly the reason why I didn't speak out against the coup immediately, Because in Myanmar, things change a lot. Political, 1 year it's democratic, the next year it's like under military dictatorship. It's weird, And as a person out here, I didn't want to condemn the political coup right away, and I got a lot of backlash for it. But I really believe my calling is going back to Myanmar and teaching. But now that's taken away from me. I don't know what I'm going to do. But Sanford, maybe coaching the developmental team might be one thing after I'm done.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation there. I hope there's some level of peace that can kind of settle in there, not even just for the aspirations of the gym and stuff like that, but just so the people can kind of get back to some semblance of normalcy there. But you were talking about the criticism that was kind of coming your way there. Was that from fellow people in Myanmar there? And if so, was that a challenging thing to deal with there? Because obviously, like I was saying before, you have such a partisan kind of presence there, a lot of support. How did you feel when people were, I guess, coming at you in that kind of way?
Well, they love you one moment and then they hate you the next. That saying really, hit me, hit home with me. They were cussing me out, saying that I should be ashamed of myself for not standing up for them when they stood up for me. It's a hard topic right now because it really put me in some sort of depression. And it was kind of hard for me to, not in training and in my personal life, the people around me could see it, that it was affecting me. And I didn't like that, because people online talk a lot, and I'm the kind of person that would read it and it would kind of internalize it, when I probably shouldn't have, But that's the reason why I talk to a sports psychologist, so I can focus just on this fight and performing to the best of my ability.
Has this been a relatively recent addition to the preparations, or just with what was going on with the Myanmar situation? Have you had a sports psychologist for a little bit now, or is this a relatively recent addition?
No, I started working with a sports psychologist, I would say, in 2014. Around 2014, 15, No. I started with a sports psychologist then, and I knew how good it was. My last fight, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and I couldn't get my mind to focus, and that's why, Sanford brought in. It was like a blessing in disguise. Sanford brought in a sports psychologist. Sanford Health brought in a sports psychologist to work with us, and now I'm working with the sports psychologist. They brought in the sports psychologist last month, and now I'm working with him. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. Seems like the game just comprehensive on all levels, like we were talking about before with the biochemistry, the mind, a very important part of the prep too. But for some people, the music in the training room can be kind of a key dynamic there. Are there any artists or genres that you're partial to train to there, or do you kind of just let whoever grab the aux cord and kind of play whatever sort of thing?
It doesn't. It doesn't. That music doesn't really do anything. Jason Jackson plays his Jamaican music, and yep, it's really nice. But I'm too focused on training. I don't really hear the noise.
Yeah, kind of just like tune it out, just like immediately focus on what you're doing, kind of deal.
I'm not doing this as a hobby, This is my livelihood. So music and all that, it doesn't really change my mood or anything. You could be opening whatever the worst music in the world, but I'll still focus on what I have to do.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair, man. I just thought to ask because sometimes fighters will train to say like EDM music or something like that if they're doing like a footwork-based kind of exercise, just something to kind of like rhythmically coincide with what they're doing. But if music's not your deal, I mean, just focusing on what you're doing is important for sure.
I have really bad taste in music. I like country music.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I like music that I don't know that people some music I just don't really have like a not the cool kid kind of genre songs.
Hey, it's whatever you're into at the end of the day, man. But you've been really good with your time, and I want to be mindful of your, presumably very busy schedule ahead of this big fight. So is there anything you'd like to sort of add as we're wrapping up here, man?
No, just tell my fans, thank you for all the love and support. It's hard time in Myanmar right now, so pray for them. And as Americans, we should be grateful for the freedoms that we have, and the Constitution that protects us. So, at the end of the day, we're one human race. Just be kind and respectful to others. That's all.
That's a great message to end things off on. And yeah, for anyone who hasn't checked out what's going on in Myanmar, definitely a great thing for perspective, just to, appreciate the, immense privilege and the benefits that we have domestically and stuff like that. But this is a huge fight coming up here, and one that I'm very excited for, and a lot of other people are too. One on TNT IV, going down on April the 28th, a light heavyweight championship bout, and the big trilogy between Vitaly Big Dash and Aung La N Sang is going down in the main event. Thanks for the time and for coming on the show, man. It was great getting some insights ahead of this one.
Thank you for pronouncing my name right. Good job, Dylan.
Oh yeah, no worries. You probably get a fair bit of that, like people mispronouncing the name.
Yep. So thank you, and this one's going to be a barn burner. I'm going to put on a show, and you guys will see the best mixed martial arts at work that night.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing fight, and I mean, a lot of people mispronounce my name, so I had to make sure I got yours correctly, just showing the respect and everything. But yeah, again, like I said, to reiterate, I appreciate all the time and insights, man, and just have a good rest of your night too there.
For sure. Thank you. Take care, my man.